Chapter 14. Hortiformia. The path to Temulo's house isn't complicated, just a bit long. Thanks to the enchantment that protects the roads from the rain, the city remains lively and bustling. A different beauty overtakes the metropolis, as if Ka herself had covered her children with a fine silk filled with tiny crystals. Sometimes, a ray of sunlight escapes the dense cover of clouds, making the view even more magical. As Tom had imagined, no one carries umbrellas. Some people use cloaks or hoods, but nothing beyond that. Upon arriving at his destination, he has to run through the garden to avoid getting too wet. The enchantment is exclusive to the roads. Everything else is subject to nature's whims. After drying off, he knocks on the door and waits. To his surprise, it's not Temulo who answers, but Lalaby Gaul. The girl opens the door and beams at him. Thomas gets lost in the girl's intense yellow eyes. Their undulating glow stands out even more among the brown braids of her hair, which she twirls around the fingers of her right pair of hands. Standing in front of him, he notices how small the Zararian girl is compared to other inhabitants. She has a short torso, well-defined breasts, and slightly wider hips than he had previously seen. "Hello, Lalaby. Good morning." At that moment, he's grateful to have met her in Zara. If it were on Earth, he surely wouldn't remember her name. "Pleasure to see you again, Tom." The satisfaction of meeting him again is evident in her voice. In fact, she wanted to greet him with a hug but holds herself back. "Can I speak with Professor Temulo today?" Should he even call him Professor? He believes so. After all, Temulo will teach him. But maybe Sir would be better. What are the proper honorifics in this world? That is, without passing through the golem's translation filter. Of course, I'll go call him. Please come in, just wait a moment." She opens the door for Tom and gestures for him to wait on one of the chairs in the room. Tom enters the house and heads for the same armchair where the two had spoken before. Lalaby heads inside the house, almost running. Some time later, Temulo joins the boy, alone. "Thomas, very good that you've returned." He sits in one of the armchairs. "I thought I wouldn't see you again. For me, it was yesterday that we talked. I have no idea how much time passes between my visits." That's something that bothers him, not knowing whether the time interval is always the same or varies. In reality, he doesn't even know how many hours make up a day in Zara. "I don't exactly remember when your first visit was, but it's been a while. And you left me talking alone, just disappeared. So rude." He laughs while serving himself a drink. "I don't have control over that. When I realize it, it's already too late." He justifies himself even though it was a joke. "I understand. Since you came to visit me, I imagine you still need help understanding the enchantments and rituals of our deities." He takes a sip of what must be tea. "Yes. Last time I couldn't understand the explanation of how to transfer the contents of the book I copied to a new one. When I tried, I ended up setting fire to the intended receptacle." "That's curious. I've never seen that happen. The amount of energy required to set something on fire unintentionally must be enormous. You shouldn't be capable of that. In Zara, something like that would never happen." But it did. It's not like Temulo called him a liar or anything, but the boy doesn't like the comment. "Well, the enchantment isn't complicated, I'll explain. And you try to reproduce it. But it'd be good with another book, one you can also use for studying." "True. I have some books here in my backpack. I can use those." He brings his bag closer and opens it. "Great. I'll ask Lalaby to bring some blank copies. I must have a few lying around the house." Tom notices that Temulo silently performs a message enchantment, or something similar, to his granddaughter. The boy feels the energy flowing from him to another part of the house. "Do you remember how to perform the copying?" "Yes." Thomas has already noticed that he doesn't forget this kind of thing. "Then show me with one of the books you brought." The boy picks up the book he had stolen from the deceased man the same day he met Lalaby for the first time. Holding it on his lap, he begins to visualize it as part of himself. Immediately, the energy flow begins to circulate between them continuously. The texture of the pages, the weight of the thicker cover, he feels it like a piece of clothing he wears. It's time to begin the enchantment. O Gaul, grant me your divine grace. Allow me to spread your blessing through the world. May the knowledge contained here proliferate. Upon finishing the incantation, the pages begin to move like submerged plants, guided by ocean currents. This flipping ends with a very strong pink flash, like a camera flash. Even with his eyes closed, Tomas is dazzled for a few seconds. You really have a knack for this. You did even better than last time. He would applaud if that were common in Zara. Isn't there a way to avoid this light? He blinks a few times to reduce the sting in his vision. It blinded me even with my eyes closed. It's part of the process. There's no way to avoid it, he says, laughing with satisfaction. Temulo is definitely a teacher who enjoys playing pranks on his students. In the middle of the conversation, Lullaby enters the room carrying some books. She places them on the table and leaves. Tom doesn't notice how dissatisfied her expression is. She entered the room glaring at her grandfather. How could he see that if everything was still blurry? Temulo pretends not to notice but is well aware of her discontent. After all, it really is his fault that her mood is like that. Another thing Tom doesn't notice is that there are other people in the house. With the blank books ready to be filled, Temulo begins explaining the reverse process of the enchantment. Very well, now with the receptacle book in your hands, you need to imagine that the knowledge is flowing from you into the pages. And with that, feel your amandla flowing directly into the pages. Amandla? This is the first time he's heard the term. Even the mage hadn't mentioned it. Amandla, you know, your energy, the grace that flows from your own body. He tries to explain it, as if it's the most obvious thing in the world, something everyone is born knowing, which makes it a terrible explanation. And what's the difference when you just say energy instead of amandla? For the boy, it's as if Temulo is acting crazy. The answer has to be good, or he'll get annoyed. Amandla is generated by you, not from the environment. When we use the world's energy to perform enchantments, it is pure. But amandla comes from within. And if it comes from within, is it impure? He doesn't understand why, but the teacher's response made him furious. He had to hold back from showing his anger. No, he answers categorically, noticing the boy's irritation. Then what's the point of the difference? Why would a grace not be pure, regardless of its origin? I believe pure wasn't the best choice of word, Marie. Let's say without interference. Amandla is like a signature. Once you notice it, it's unmistakable. All right. He calms down, still not understanding why he got so irritated. But how am I supposed to do this? It's something new to me. When you imagine the enchantment, imagine the energy flowing from you, but close your body to the outside. That's the easiest way to manage. Normally, this is learned naturally as a child, very young, walking in someone's arms. And the incantation? He asks impatiently. The teacher has already exhausted his patience and is starting to get on Tom's nerves. The boy isn't someone who gets easily irritated, but Temulo, for some reason, managed to do that today. Ah, right. When you feel it's the right moment, just say, "Oh, Gaul," spread the knowledge through these pages. Very simple. The enchantment really seems simple, but he doesn't know if he truly has the amandla he needs. He hopes so. With the blank book ready, Tomas begins the enchantment. Imagining the graces flow leaving him and entering the book is easy. He's done it before. The point is, it wasn't done the right way. He needs to concentrate solely on himself and the book, ignoring any external stimulus. Tom begins to feel alone, pulled away from the outside world, trapped inside himself. Only the blank book keeps him company. The movement of his amandla feels unnatural, like an itch from a worm crawling beneath his skin. As the flow intensifies, the sensation becomes pleasant, even pleasurable. The worms spread through his body, their number so great that he feels the amandla running like a liquid, pouring from his body and being cast over the book's pages. Tomas can no longer control it precisely. Now is the time to finish the enchantment. Without opening himself to the world, he pronounces, "O Gaul, spread the knowledge through these pages." His hands begin to emit a pink glow which takes over the entire book. The pages are filled with the text imprinted in his mind. The ink emerges from the paper, forming each word, drawing, and even the notes made by the original owner. Temulo smiles as he sees the spell being performed, but there's concern in his eyes. "Incredible, you managed with quite some ease." "It was the least I could do. From what you say, kids can do this kind of enchantment without difficulty." He flips through the book. The content is perfectly printed on its pages, as if it were the original. "That's true, but you're not a native of Zara. You weren't raised in this reality, so it's truly fantastic how easily you learn." "Thanks." He puts the book on the table. "Temulo, I mentioned that in my world I'm in danger, do you remember?" "Yes, I remember. That's why I gave you an enchantment for when you encounter the Shantanin." "Right." Tom had forgotten the main reason he needed to learn Zara's language. He starts rummaging through his backpack until he finds the paper with the instructions. With the paper in hand, he speaks again. "Why don't you teach me? Like you just did now." He seems nervous. "It's not that simple." "Not simple to do?" "Because if it's not, then it's even better to learn with you explaining." Tomas feels the teacher doesn't want to teach him, though he doesn't yet know why. "How can I explain? There are certain magics that can't be performed without some sort of punishment, or by specific authorities." "So you gave me a forbidden spell, is that it? Is there some entity monitoring which enchantments are performed? That would be a bit much." "More or less." He smiles awkwardly. "But what exactly does this spell do?" he asks, curious. In Tom's mind, a simple fireball or lightning bolt shouldn't be the kind of magic that's banned. "It's an imprisonment enchantment, but a specific one." He turns his back and goes to the shelf to grab one of his books. "It imprisons, it doesn't kill. It leaves the recipient in a sort of limbo." He avoids saying the rest. "Where they stay until being conjured again." "So you're using me to capture a Shantanin? And you didn't even tell me." This is what he gets for trusting others without any suspicion. "Well, yes." He quickly tries to smooth the situation for his side. "But the spell is very powerful. It will certainly solve your problem, you just need to perform it." "Yeah, it'll be real easy to perform this spell I don't even know with a tiger the size of a house chasing me." He speaks extremely sarcastically. Temulo doesn't know what a tiger is, but understands the analogy. Tomas collapses into the armchair. Even acting selfishly, Temulo provided a solution. Is it worth ignoring the possibility of getting rid of the creature with this spell? With distaste, he does the same as he did with the books and imprints the spell's knowledge in his mind. He hopes to study it later on Earth. Temulo watches everything, still nervous. He has doubts about whether he should have passed the information to the boy, but these thoughts are soon replaced by the possibility of a wonderful academic study. "You have no idea of the significance your success represents for academia. Having such a creature to study," he almost salivates, "it could change the world. It won't change anything if I can't survive the next time it finds me." He puts a hand on his head. He really needs to learn something useful today. "Temulo, in all your knowledge, is there no magic I can use to protect myself? Like firing a blast of fire, exploding organs, a sharp stone pillar rising from the ground. Anything like that." "My God, how cruel your imagination is." He feels disgusted imagining the result of some of the boy's suggestions. Tomas, perhaps because of the years he spent watching movies and playing video games, thinks that all magic users must possess some offensive knowledge. Impossible in a world where magic is so normal not to have these things. "Yes, there are enchantments used in combat and punishments, but ordinary people don't learn this kind of thing. Those who use them are either criminals or brigades. And you don't know any to teach me? He asks, frustrated. I taught earth-related enchantments at the academy. Magic to make crops grow abundant and safe. And healing spells, of course. What Tom did was ask a botany professor to teach him how to use a bazooka. Interesting. Can you make a plant grow really fast? It's possible, but it would die shortly afterward. Plants need to grow at the right pace. If we force accelerated growth, it won't have the energy to sustain itself. Grace isn't enough to maintain life for long. No problem. And is it possible to control a plant a little? Or how it grows? Thomas is already scheming the possibilities. Yes, we use it to keep trees away from buildings or roots from important structures in our roads. Temulo doesn't follow where Tom is heading. If it's possible to do all that, then it must be possible to use plants to protect me. Do we have somewhere to test this now? Finally, he gets a bit excited. Temulo paces the room with his cup of warm tea in hand, pondering Tom's request. Clearly it's possible, but he doesn't like the doors that might open if the boy's ideas work. The best thing is to refuse. Say they'd need to go to a more spacious place for that. As he turns to give his justification, a golden light invades the room and blinds them both. And with the glare, a powerful voice that makes the professor's heart stop with fear. Temulo Gol, honor your role as an educator. In the middle of the room between Tom and Temulo, there is a golden being. Its silhouette resembles Ka, but its body is smooth, made of fluid light. The entity is pointing a large golden sword at the Zararian, who is paralyzed by astonishment. Trembling, the professor nods in affirmation. Just as swiftly as the light appeared, it vanishes, leaving Temulo in shock. In the next room, hurried footsteps can be heard. Lullaby heard what happened. Thomas is as surprised as the professor by the event. That was really unexpected. But the boy recognizes the voice of the luminous being. It was the spirit of Ka. He doesn't know the real reason for this whole scene, but he can guess. And he guessed right. Had you ever seen anything like that happen before? Tom asks curiously. No. He slowly begins to recover. For Tom, all that is new, everything is magical, so such an intervention being common is plausible. After that, you're not going to back out now, right? He mocks. To be honest, he's had little patience since Temulo's comments about Amandla. So, can you teach me how to make plants grow and all that? Yes, follow me. He leaves the room trembling, heading toward the porch. The back of the house leads to a large yard as decorated as the entrance, but more spacious and colourful. The rain still falls, hitting the various plants and making a pleasant sound. The garden's scent is surreal, reminiscent of wet grass, lemon and pineapple, though there's no fruit there. Tom waits on the porch while Temulo brings some pots from the yard. The rain doesn't touch his body, flowing off to the sides just like it does on the roads. The boy thinks he needs to learn that magic. He'll never carry an umbrella again. The professor returns with 2 medium-sized pots, each with a plant seedling. They are slender, caramel-coloured, with orange leaves. These will be our guinea pigs, he says, placing the pots at the centre of a round table at the best spot to observe the garden. And there won't be a problem? These plants will probably die from what you said. No problem, they're seedlings, I planted them recently. It won't be an issue if I have to plant them again. Now, pay attention. Temulo turns to one of the plants and focuses on the seedling. After a few seconds, he says, "Grow," while raising his hands. In response, the seedling begins to mature as if in a time-lapse video, growing from a sprout to a small tree occupying the whole pot. The boy is surprised by the speed of the transformation. It took just a few seconds. However, he doesn't know if that would be fast enough. Incredible, right? He looks at Tom and smiles. Since it didn't grow that much, it should survive, but I'll need to remove it from the pot later. Yes, that was really cool. And it didn't seem complicated. Thomas even thought it simpler than the other lessons, after all. Temulo practically didn't utter any enchantment, just said, "Grow." It is simple, but since I'm very used to it, it must have seemed even easier. Ready to learn? He nods. The first thing is to have a notion of what the grown plant looks like. So look closely at this one and try to memorize the details, how its trunk is, its colors, that kind of thing. Tom carefully observes the plant, trying to memorize its main characteristics and creating in his mind a clear image of the tree. In the middle of this process, a doubt arises. If I don't know what the adult plant looks like, can't I perform the enchantment? You still can, but it won't be ideal. You'll need more energy. Overall, it gets harder. I see, and then? When you have a good notion of the plant's structure, you need to focus on the seedling and visualize it both in its current and final form. These two images must be clear in your mind, how it is and how it will be. Doesn't seem that simple. It's like trying to go cross-eyed on purpose. You get used to it. The tricky part comes now. With these clear images, you must guide the energy flow through the plant in a way that results in the final form, as if the energy were solid and the plant grew along the only possible path leading to the shape you want. I think I get it, but only by testing to know for sure. He ponders how he would do it, until he asks something that's been intriguing him. And why doesn't this spell have a long incantation like the others? Doesn't make much sense. These differences are curious. Well, this enchantment is shared by all the deities. It has always been used to beautify our cities and ensure good harvests. Tom suspected there were exclusivities among the deities' enchantments, and it seems he was right. Nowadays, it's mostly used to shape branches and roots, preventing plants from growing in a direction we don't want. Now, more complex structures are trickier. It's possible, but it will require effort and trials. Why don't you try now? Thomas positions himself in front of the plant and observes it. He begins to formulate in his mind what he wants. The plant growing, crawling along the ground, reaching Temulo and trapping his leg. He repeats this scene a few times. Everything is clear in his mind, like a storyboard. Manipulating the flow of grace far from his body is complicated. The boy must feel what he is doing by extension. If only it were possible to see it happening. That would be so much easier. With difficulty, he makes the energy follow the path of the plant to his teacher, like a plumber setting up piping. This process proves more complex. With each curve, maintaining the grace's flow gets harder and harder. Reaching his limit, he feels it's time. As Temulo did, he raises his hand and orders the plant to grow. Obeying like a soldier, the seedling expands violently. One can feel in the air the effort needed to follow the path, not at all natural but ordered. Its branches twist and break, with the cracking of wood almost drowning out the sound of the rain. In an instant, the plant is coiling around the professor's leg, who steps back, loses balance for being trapped, and falls to the ground. I can't believe it actually worked. He laughs while looking at Temulo fallen flat on his butt. Very funny. He gets up, brushing off his clothes. Still a bit irritated, he removes the plant from his leg. It hadn't wrapped tightly. The fall was more from the scare than anything else. I must say it was deserved. Thomas laughs a bit more after confirming the other wasn't hurt. Under the sound of the rain, the boy notices the beep of his alarm getting louder. When he realizes, he is staring at the ceiling of his room. Wow, that was really fast this time. Maybe he needs to get a louder alarm clock. Temulo brushes off his clothes and looks at his heel, checking for any injury. As he prepares to scold Tom, the boy disappears in a pale flash. Since it's not the first time he's seen this effect, he isn't shocked, just frustrated. With the lesson over, he casts a spell that dries the plant, almost to the point of vanishing. Lullaby, who had been spying from a distance, bursts onto the porch as soon as she notices Tom's disappearance. "You already knew all that and didn't tell me anything," she shouts at Temulo. "I told you not to get close to him, and you shouldn't have been hiding, listening to conversations that don't concern you." He doesn't get ruffled by Lullaby. He's been through this many times and knows it's useless. Not to mention that she's not just any granddaughter. He said he's being hunted by a Shantanin, and And, and, she repeats over and over due to nervousness. And Car manifests here for no reason at all, she yells as irritated as she is surprised. Lullaby. He puts a hand to his head. Why did he agree to this? I shouldn't have listened to your mother and let you stay here. No, no way. Now I want to know everything. Don't even think about sending me back. You know you can't go against an order from her, and even less against an order from me. If she knew everything, you wouldn't have been allowed to stay in my house. There's more. Temulo realizes he let something slip. He even tries to cover it up, but it's too late. Now tell me everything. I don't think anything else could surprise me. Well, the one you've chosen to court isn't from Zara, nor from Jantir. What do you mean? Where else could someone be from? She asks, incredulous. According to him, from a place called Earth.